Welcome back to Heaving Bosoms, the podcast where two best friends recap the plot of romance novels while staying connected, going on tangents, and, for me, getting some much-needed adult time. Let's start today in the best way possible, with a Patreon shout-out. Meaghan L, you are a Gamayun, a huge, impressive bird with the head of a beautiful woman. You know the future, the past, and all of creation, so you fly around spreading prophecies and divine messages. You are worshipped throughout the world for your intellect, which is pretty appropriate because you are the smartest birdwoman ever, and we here at Heaving Bosoms also worship you. You live on an island in a tropical paradise when you aren't flying around spreading all of your immense wisdom. So you're obviously living your best life. Queen Bird! Don't forget to check out the Patreon for all of our bonus content and fun extras. And we've got limited edition merch in honor of our 2020 meetup at KissCon. All proceeds are going to benefit All Hands and Hearts in their plight to help Puerto Rico recover from natural disasters. So you're giving back with each purchase. And now we have part 2 of The Bollywood Bride by Sonali Dev. Here we go. Hi, Erin. Hello, Erin. Hi. Hello, Erin. Hootie, wow.
Hey, Mel. When we did our sound check, for some reason, Melody sang hootie, wow, hootie. What was it? Hootie, wow,
it was
hootie.
Test, hootie, wow, test.
What is hootie, wow? What is that?
I don't know. It's nonsense that comes out of my brain. What do you want from me?
That's weird.
And then Erin did the exact same test on her end. So
I tried. I was like, hootie? What was it? That was my test.
Yeah. Hey, Erin.
What?
How the fuck are you?
Oh, bad.
Yeah, you look like a very cozy boxer who might be the cousin of a Yeti.
I made a mistake. I got up and I went to spin class.
Okay.
And at spin class, I think it was the kind with the bikes, and the bikes glow blue, green, yellow, or red, depending on how much you're working.
Okay.
And so the lady's like, be a yellow, be a red.
Work it.
Yeah, but my bike, the stats, where it said resistance, it had a question mark.
Uh-oh. That's never good.
Yeah, but I wasn't thinking of it attached to the colors. So my color was like blue, and sometimes it would be white, and that means you're not doing anything at all. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like 120 RPMs. Like, why is it still blue?
Yeah.
Must just do harder.
Oh, Erin.
And then I just kept being like white, and then the lady kept looking at me and being like, we're in the yellow. And I'm like, I know, I'm trying so hard.
Couldn't she see your little legs going?
Yeah, I don't know. But she probably thought I was at like no resistance or something. And so then about like halfway through, I figured out the bike thinks I'm at zero resistance, which is why it doesn't think I'm working very hard. When in actuality, I'm not. But damage had already been done. And then it was a combined cycle/bar class.
Whoa.
So it was like an hour of cycle and then a half hour of bar.
Holy shit, Erin.
Which is fine. But then I had told my friend that I would go to a yoga class afterwards.
What?
So I did 3 classes. I made so much mistakes. And then I came home and I took a shower and I laid in the bed and I got really warm because I was so tired, but I was so cold and I wanted to be warm. And then my stomach was upset and I was like, David, I feel bad. And he was like, drink water. And I was like, no, that can't be it. So here I am.
Wow.
Mistakes were made. Anyway, here I am. I'm very cold. I'm trying to drink water and rehabilitate my body.
Well, I'm glad that you have some tea in front of you.
I do. I'm so
That's
cold.
both water and warm.
It is.
It's very smart.
And, oh wait, I won't tell you what kind of tea it is because I'll save it for my lady love, which I did not prepare.
Ayo!
So, haha, it's going to be a tea.
Perfecto.
Brace yourselves.
Get stoked, everybody.
You're on the edge of your seats. Or at the edge of your butt.
Or
As
maybe
Melody
your
said
butt.
last week. I'm on the edge of my butt.
All right, well, we got to get right into this because we have like 2/3 of book to do.
Do it. It is kind of downhill from here. It's a lot of setup in this book.
There's a lot of setup. Yeah. There's a lot that was woven beautifully throughout the book that we were just like, I'm going to tell you right up front. And it's,
yeah.
You know,
forget this beautiful weaving.
We cannot be trusted to get the weaving right.
No, we're going to snarl it. We can't be trusted with it.
It's so true. All right. So when we left off, they were all standing in the kitchen.
Oh, I'm so glad you know. Yeah, they're all standing in the kitchen.
Ria had just made some perfect coffee with 3 drops of cream. Erin was so incensed.
My God,
she couldn't remember the rest of the scene.
I hated that. No. I was over it. I don't remember what happens for the rest of the book. I just blacked out after 3 drops of cream.
So what happens in this scene is that they're sort of talking about wedding preparation and like how Uma Atya has been stressed and is feeling overwhelmed. And both the men in the room are like, I mean, is it really that big a deal? Like it's just a wedding and brr, brr, brr. And Ria, as a person she's like known as the Bollywood bride. She's the blushing bride in Bollywood. Is like, no, these ceremonies, these traditions mean a lot. And it's important that like we get all the coconuts that are on the list. God damn it.
Oh, the coconuts.
The coconuts. Coconut gate in this book. Oh, man.
Yeah. The men are like, God forbid we miss a coconut.
Yeah.
And Ria is very like, yes, God forbid we miss a coconut.
Yeah, she's like, have several seats, you dicks.
Yeah.
And so his perspective is the wedding day should be about the 2 partners and the vows that you speak. That's the important part about a wedding. Mm-hmm. And so finally she's like, hey, what about the rituals diminishes any of that? Like it doesn't take away from the partners and the vows.
It accentuates it.
That's right.
Hashtag intellectualism in 2020.
That's the one. And so he says, I thought vows were about promises you made. I should have realized it was about how you made them. Which is just a barb straight to her heart.
Right there in the ribs.
Yikes, oh Pikes. She made some vows to him, you guys.
She did make that promise. And then he showed up to be like, what about promise? She did say, no, I'm having sex with this guy.
She goes, I pooped on it.
I pooped on it.
I just pooped all over it.
Pooped on it.
That's what I did. Oh, no.
Oops, I pooped on it. Now you're going to get beat up. Goodbye, Vikram. Enjoy your flight back to Naperville.
Oh, poor Vikram.
That's what it was like.
It was like that. Well, no, it was much more. She was very broken up about it. She just couldn't show him. It was her start as an actress.
But also, I think this shows Sonali Dev's like really masterful. Like this conversation not only gets another jab in from Vikram to Ria and like what she did to him, but it also like lets us in through conversation on a lot of these rituals and like what's going on with this wedding and what the meanings are behind them without hitting us over the head with like exposition and explanation from the author's perspective.
Completely.
It's woven in the story in a way that's like entertaining and not herbsy. Not herbsy.
It's totally
I know all about
wonderful.
the coconuts and I didn't herbs that, which is like a miracle. I would be like wedding traditions, blah, blah, blah. But no, it was in dialogue. So I learned it all.
That's prime herbsing territory for Erin.
Yes, and I'm so glad I read it.
So they like do a big stare down, basically. And she's close to shooting that she knows a ton about keeping vows. Saying? What the fuck is this note?
Oh, no.
Oh, basically, she's close to saying. It is saying. She's close to being like, hey, you fucker, I know a ton about keeping vows. And we find out later it's because she made 2 promises in a very, very short amount of time. One to Vikram and then one to her dying father on his deathbed.
Yeah.
And she has kept that vow.
But she did only keep that one promise.
You know, she did a 50. She's batting a 500, I think, is how that goes.
Like, keeping 50% of your promises is not knowing a lot about promises, like Ria.
I mean, she's done a really good job at that one, you know?
Yeah, too good.
Okay, but then there's a mix-up that happens. There's a catastrophe with an altar, and so Nikhil and Jen need to go take care of the altar stuff, and Vikram and Ria need to go take care of the vow stuff. And my note is forced proximity, finally!
Reading vows out loud, forced proximity.
Yeah. So then, oh my God, you guys, it goes from intense, angry stare down to when they're alone in the kitchen. She's washing the mugs, and he like comes up behind her all close, but not touching on her. He does do a
neck breathe, one of those neck breathes, you know.
He does a super sexy neck breathe, and then he reaches around her and turns off the water, and she thinks to herself, "I could just take a tiny step back and be in his arms." And oh God, she can feel that breath on the nape of her neck. Don't forget about that.
Yeah.
And then she drops the glass into the sink, and the spell is broken, and he crosses the room like as far as he can away from her.
He runs as fast as he can.
He basically does. Yeah, tail between his legs. He is out the door and 3 blocks away.
Yeah.
No, and then he's like, "Hey, we gotta go.
We gotta go do these vows.
We gotta." Oh, what he says is he's so good at the mean comment. He goes, "I guess we better go and see what makes those vows so special."
Is that mean?
What?
I don't know. I didn't think it was that mean.
Well, because that he's
not
saying that these vows will
be
special, whereas the ones she made to him were not, obviously.
Oh,
yeah.
Didn't pick up on that. If I were Ria, I'd be like, sure, let's go. No, what I meant was, remember how you broke your engagement to me? That's what I was talking about.
And meanwhile, Erin would be like, great, gotta get my backpack. Yeah, gotta go. Getting on my shoes.
I'm super great. Didn't break no promises.
Okay, so then they get in the car, and he is like too close to her.
Oh, because it's one of those seats. It's a seat. It's
a bench seat.
Oh, and she's like, who even fucking makes cars this way anymore? Like, how did this happen to me? Oh,
yeah. How is this so sliding. Unfair?
They slide.
Mm-hmm. They're doing a slide. Oh,
yeah.
He's doing a try to talk to her, and she's doing a clam up. And then at the temple, the priest keeps on lecturing them about being a couple as if they are the couple, no matter how many times they finally tell him, like, we are not the couple, we are not together.
It's like he's got a speech in his head and he's going to do it no matter who's in front of him. He's like, I've prepared this speech.
Yeah. And the most important thing about it, he says that marriage should be about interior oneness.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of beautiful stuff. So then he's like, I've got 2 different versions of these vows. Here you go. And one is a super long version. One is a super short version that's a little bit more, well, super short in quotation marks.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot more modern because the first one is all about, the section she reads at least, is a lot about making babies.
Mm-hmm.
And Ria like physically recoils away from that because she thinks that her mom and her grandmother both had their schizophrenic crises first, right after they had babies.
Mm-hmm.
And so she says that she can't risk it. And like later on, we find out that it also probably had a lot to do with their age. They were both very young when they had children, and schizophrenia usually comes out in women between like the ages of 20 and 25-ish. And they were both like 22 or something. And so Vikram is dubious later on, but it's the connection that she makes, and she doesn't want to risk it because she doesn't want to do the same thing that happened to her kid someday.
But also, aren't those vows also a lot more stuffy and
yes, they're also a lot more
and
stuffy.
Very like explaining of everything, exterior instead of kind of the meaningfulness and the emotions of everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
so it's
absolutely.
not just that. I just don't want you guys to think that she made it completely about her and was like, well, this one mentions babies and I personally don't want to have one. So no to this one for your vows.
Yeah, no, it's just a vehicle to give us a little bit of insight into her brain and one of the biggest conflicts that she sees later on in being with Vikram long term, because he loves kids. He's all about kids. He mentions several times in the book that he wants like 10 kids. Mm-hmm. And she knows that she will not do that, or at least not physically do that.
Right.
And so then she's like, hey, Vikram, do you want to check this out? And he's like, oh, hell no, absolutely not. This is all you. Gotta go make a call. And by the time she's done, he's outside. And it says that she wants to like fly into his sunlit arms. Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
And then he tells her that Uma Atya has had pains in her left arm. And so she's like,
what a red
we have
herring
to go.
Is this? Listen. There are 3 times where I was just like, can we not? Like, one was that it's like we're just trying to get these 2 in a hospital. Like 3 different times. We just want them to be in trouble for no reason. And like, come on.
Listen, so I really thought this was going to be Chekhov's elderly loved one. But I was really glad that it wasn't.
All this is a vehicle to get these 2 in a hospital and to get Ria to be like, I hate hospitals because of how I saw my dad die in one.
Right.
It was just a big waste of time.
No,
I thought.
More than that, it was important to get Vikram to say, I also hate hospitals. I can't believe I ever wanted to be a doctor.
Because I'm not.
Right.
It turns out.
Exactly.
Surprise.
So, guys, Uma Atya's fine, but she is very concernicus.
She just had a left arm pain. Guys, if you just have a left arm pain, that's not a heart attack. It comes with other shit.
It's a pulled muscle in this case. Yeah.
It's gonna be. It's gonna be. If it's just like everything about me is totally fine. I'm breathing great. I'm fine. No other pains. It's just my elbow hurts. You're not having a heart attack. It's okay. Live your life.
Yeah. Then he's like, hey, do you want to wait outside? And she's like, I definitely want to wait outside. And she's like, oh, I hate hospitals. And then he says the aforementioned thing that I just told you about. And she's like, excuse me, record scratch, what? Oh, like, are you kidding me? Because in her brain, she's having a full meltdown because she's like, I said goodbye to you. I set you on the path to having this perfect life and like going to be a doctor because everyone, including my self-hatred and depression brain, told me that like, if you were with me, you wouldn't be able to do any of the things that like you were destined to do. And now it turns out I sacrificed you and you didn't do the destiny shit.
Yeah. She thinks she white fanged him and like set him free.
Right.
And then he was able to like do his big doctor time career. And he did not.
Yeah.
He did the opposite of that.
Oof. So she says, you loved medicine. How could you have? And he cuts in and goes, quit? Oh, it was easy. I just couldn't go back. It wasn't what I wanted anymore. And she essentially says, why? And then he goes, because I wasn't that guy anymore. The one who thought he knew everything. The one who had his entire life planned out. He died when you left him. I couldn't go back to his life.
Mm-hmm. Heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking. So we find out that instead of getting on a plane back to Naperville, motherfuckers! Vroom, vroom. Screech! He instead went back to South America, and he spent 5 years not talking to his family, not doing anything, just like working on farms or construction sites or in sweatshops at some point, all over the place. He was tutoring some kids, which we find out later led to his brand new project that's really cool and is going to make him a bajillionaire, but also save the world. It was a big awful. And so his whole family apparently, like their whole family apparently thought that he was just doing like a privileged rich kid with a broken heart walkabout, like trying to find himself. And like, yeah,
wasn't he?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
They're not wrong.
Like, I have some a little bit of a problem with Vikram's like 5-year sweatshop run. Like,
you can't tell me everything.
There's just like I don't. There's just so many people in this world that have to work in sweatshops and like have to work in menial construction jobs for no money in third world countries and like all these things that he did to like punish himself like as a rich kid of like I'm going to do this temporarily as like a I don't know. I didn't care for it. And then what comes out of it, I think, is also a big privilege that I don't know, I guess we can talk about it now.
Sure.
He worked at enough construction sites in impoverished countries.
Right.
That now he's teaching like a master's course at the University of Chicago on like indigenous construction.
Yeah, and the way that you can use eco-friendly materials in modern architecture and construction.
But do we really think he was using, like, do we think that the part of 5 years that he spent working on construction sites in Colombia or whatever, or Brazil, or, you know, like he was all around South America and Central America, it really taught him enough about the use of like eco materials? Like, I don't know. It wasn't even 5 years. And I think if you just pick a random construction site anywhere in the world, it's not going to necessarily be like an indigenous, like eco-friendly project that is like made in the traditional ways of the traditional people of wherever. It's probably just going to be a regular construction site. So like, what does this guy know that they're now like, this is the expert? It's like they're saying this guy, there are definitely better people to be teaching this course at the University of Chicago that know more about traditional ways of constructing buildings. It's just like this particular kid who happens to be from Chicago and extremely privileged in his background and riches happened to work on like maybe 1 or 2 construction sites, because that wasn't even his only job. He tutored kids, he worked in a sweatshop, he folded clothes, he did all these other things.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're talking about 2 years of experience?
Right.
And now he's teaching at the University of Chicago? Like,
all right, I hear you.
That's a big privilege. Like, I feel like there's somebody better in Brazil that's like, hi, I'm the world's leading expert on this.
Right,
like, would you mind? Like, no, we've got Vikram. He's from here. It's good. Sorry, that's how I feel about the situation.
Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. I was mostly just in the I want to say the toils of the emotion, but that's not right. I was in the emotional upheaval. That's where my brain was.
But don't you think, like, I'm sorry, when he's like slaving away at wherever horrible job he's in, he's surrounded by hundreds of people that have to do this job to survive and feed their families.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I'm just here to punish myself because this is so terrible, right, guys? Like, I just hate it. I hate it. That's what the emotional toil angle was for me. Anyway.
Okay, fair enough. So she's crying and he goes up to her and like starts wiping the tears from her cheeks. And then he goes, you know what finally brought me back? I was in Lima at a restaurant getting hammered after work. There was an Indian family there on vacation. And then basically he sees they have a magazine and she's on the cover of it. And he said it was the first time he had seen her in 5 years. And she's dressed like a bride.
Like a bride, the Bollywood Bride, it says.
Yeah, she's all decked out in like jewels. And she had this coquettish look on her face. And he got so mad about it. Right. He's super big mad.
I would also do a big mad.
Yeah.
Because not only did she poop on it,
right,
but now she's so successful that she's on a magazine in Brazil. Like, oof.
Yeah, it's a hard. But then he like gets in a random fight with a stranger, and then he gets beaten to a pulp.
Oh yeah. He does a big bodyguard.
Yes. And his boss is so worried that he like takes his phone and calls Nikhil. And Nikhil comes and gets him. And apparently his condition on coming home was that no one asked him a single question about the 5 years that he was gone. And they were like, okay, Vikram, we just need you back.
Which I would be like, sure, Vic. And then I'd be like, you're going to tell me about these 5 years. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Okay, so then she says she's sorry. And it says, for a long while he didn't respond. Emotions sparked in his eyes like stars in a cloudless sky. Too many to separate and identify. She didn't know when she closed her own eyes, or when his lips moved close enough for his breath to caress hers. Every inch of her body recognized the intimacy and reached for him, waiting for him to close the distance, to take her lips. It had to be the only way to ease the pain, to make sense of the madness. She reached up. It was a whisper of a movement, but he backed away from it as though she had shoved him with all of her might.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
it is beautiful.
It is so beautiful. So she wants to go to him and like comfort him, but she thinks to herself that it would be taking from him instead of giving him something, and that's selfish, so she doesn't.
And she's right.
So he says that they need to get through the wedding, and then they joke about her being a succubus with talons again, and he says that any man should be nervous around her. And then we go to another auntie dinner, and it's wonderful. Yeah. Oh, and we find out that she skipped the bachelorette because Mira planned it, and she didn't want her to be uncomfortable. She's been uncomfy around her.
Yeah. Good call, Ria.
Oh my gosh. And then I have to just do a quick, like, this is such good depression writing really fast. Because she basically says that she's glad that Uma is all right. But it says her mind wouldn't stop latching on to darkness, unable to trust any glimmer of brightness. It was paranoia, and it was part of her special gift of depression, along with sadness and fear. And oof, my note is oof, so real. Oof. Anyway, so also HBs, this is where I'm gonna hand the reins over to Erin, because
so soon?
I did not reread this book this week.
Oh, no.
Instead, I wanted to get out of this headspace, and I've been Ice Planet Barbarianing. I have been Rebel Cartering. I have been in like super happy spaces in my reading this week. So
but I don't think we're there yet. Melody.
We're in chapter 17.
Shop. You told me to start at 18.
Oh fuck. Apparently my notes just ended. Okay, so
basically, here's the thing. Something happens to the sari. Like there's something going on with saris. And they have to go.
Nikhil's
yeah.
wedding outfit was
clothes.
lost
Something
in the mail.
Happens to boy clothes. And so they need to go to some kind of like Indian outfitter in Naperville who has like the best of all the clothes.
And he has the best shop in North America. Thank you very much.
Yeah, in North America. Yeah, he's got like a little sign and stuff. He's really very proud of this.
Yeah.
And he's very into Ria wearing his clothes or like choosing his. He's very into Ria being in the shop.
Yeah,
sure.
Well, and she's got like a scarf on and she's got shades on, but people are still seeing her. And there's this really cute moment where they're walking in and she starts to walk a little bit faster. And so Vikram instinctively, because she's only with Nikhil and Vikram instinctively like flanks her on the other side to put his big body in front of whoever is going to come at her, you guys.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice.
Yeah.
But then something happens in the shop, like somebody videotapes her or takes like pictures and stuff. And then like they're like told to leave and they don't. Wait, a fight starts.
Wait. You're right.
You said turning the reins over to Erin. All right, inaccurate or not, I'm going to tell you what the plot is. I don't care if it's real.
No, it is real. You just missed a section where he tries on a clothing that she really likes. And it's silver and it brings out the molten mercury in his eyes. And then she's like he can tell that she likes it. And so he's fixing to just like walk away from it because he doesn't want her to like it. So there. He wants to get something else that Ria won't like. And then somebody videotapes her. Vikram like flies across the store to get this phone out of this douchebag's hand and delete the video.
Right.
And then as that happens, somebody gets hit with a vase or something, and then Vikram's head is bleeding, and Ria has a big emotional response to it. Chin is bleeding, sure.
Yeah.
One of those.
And then I think her head is bleeding, and he like takes a scarf and like presses it to her head and like holds her.
She takes her scarf and puts it on his cabeza, because his cabeza is the one that's bleeding. And then
Sí, estoy de acuerdo. Okay, so
and then he puts his arm around her waist and he's holding her tight to her. And then Mira walks in. Poor Sunshine Mira. It's just like, hey guys, I was told to show up here.
And I do see that you do have her in your arms and you are doing a comfort, and it is a lot.
It's a lot.
And I am still Mira, normal, nice, really great.
Need to get the fuck out of here.
Just watching this train wreck happen in front of me. I can't control it.
Proprietor goes and gets a first aid kit, and Ria keeps trying to be like, Mira, as his girlfriend, you should put the bandage on. And Mira's like, no, really. No. You should. He is the one that won't let go of you right now. You are the one in his arms, not Mira, the girlfriend.
It's pretty clear I don't belong here.
Yeah. So anyway he's
I'm
like,
out.
He's
Hashtag
like,
justice for Mira. Stepping out.
And he's like, I'll do my own bandage. And then and then Nikhil goes and gets the car. And then Vikram like gets her outside. And he like wants to be all up on her when he puts her in the car. And he's like waiting there, and he doesn't want to leave her because he's all worried, and she doesn't want to leave him because she's all worried. And then a paparazzo or like a crowd or something comes up, and then they're both like, drive, Nikhil. And so he speeds off like a getaway driver, leaving Vikram there to hang out with Mira. And Ria thinks, well, I guess he's gonna put it in her right now. And then she waits up for him.
Listener. And that, listener, is what it looks like when Melody turns the reins over to Erin because she doesn't remember the plot. How was a fight breaks out wrong? How was it wrong?
It wasn't wrong.
I said they tried to take a picture and then a fight breaks out. And you were like, no, shut up. A vase breaks. And then...
Oh, I'm a giant dick.
No, you're not. It's just funny. I just wanted you to understand that I had been right. Okay.
You were. Yeah.
Ria.
So then.
She's asleep in the Naperville house.
Yeah.
And, well, she's in her bed, and she hears a car drive up, and she realizes that it's Vikram in the car, in a car. He's in a cab. He wasn't driving the car. He stumbles out of the cab. He's
drunk
AF. Clearly super, super drunk. And I think he falls. Doesn't he fall on the pavement?
He stumbles. He does a little stumble.
You guys, she hears him come up the stairs. She hears him because she's wide awake. She hears him touch the doorknob and like start to turn it. And then
he comes all the way up the stairs. Oh.
Yeah. She hears him let go of the doorknob and walk away. And you guys, it is a beautiful, it is a devastate. Yeah. It is incredible.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I don't really understand why, this jogs her memory back to the trauma of her childhood.
Yeah.
Where she went into the attic where she wasn't supposed to go.
OMG.
And encountered her schizophrenic mother. And the description of this is very like that her mother was not a person, was an animal, and there's like spittle and stink and biting and blood. Yeah.
So he full on Mrs. Rochester's her.
Yes.
She's up in the attic doing a big Jane Eyre Mrs. Rochester, unmedicated, unwashed.
Up there so much, unmedicated, unwatched, that Ria doesn't even know she's up there.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't think she's even coming down for, like, anything. Meals, showers, stuff.
Yeah.
Human interaction. This is one of the cruelest things I've ever... I feel like not enough attention is paid in this book to how cruel it was to keep... that the monster that her mother became... is not only the fault of her schizophrenia, which is partially to blame, I'm sure, but is much greater the fault of her father for locking this woman in an attic for what, 20 years? He
felt like he couldn't get her treatment because of the stigma. And so he just hid her away.
And I just feel like I can't. I understand, I get it, the stigma, but like this is horrifying. Like this troubled me deep.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Ria goes up there because like one of her grandmothers dies, and her last words to her was like, don't go up to the attic. So of course she's going to go up there. Yeah. Opens the door, and she gets fully attacked and assaulted by her mother. Broken ribs, bites. She's like bleeding from all over her body. She's got broken bones. Like it's really, really bad. And her dad comes up and essentially saves her, but her one and only memory of interacting with her mom is getting brutally assaulted by her when she just like went to see what was going on. So she gets hospitalized.
Ria gets hospitalized.
Yeah.
The mother, they just do shut that door.
Yeah, they just leave her up there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
horrifying. So then this is kind of like past and present in a way that I really wasn't sure what was going on, because then it was like after this flashback, it was like she had to go out to the oak where like her and Vikram's oak. And then at some point, like past becomes present and Vikram is there and she's like dreaming. Or
she feels
I don't know,
like
let
she's
me know
dreaming.
what.
Yeah,
I'm not super sure, but like
well,
Vikram's
because she
there.
goes out to the oak and he's like up in the tree, and she's like, "You were
was
drunk."
that young Vikram or was that now Vikram?
That's now Vikram, right?
Okay, so this scene happens at the tree. I thought she woke up in bed. Maybe like I couldn't. This was so like well melded between past and present that I wasn't really sure if she went out to the tree in the present tense and he was up in the tree and she was like, oh, you were drunk before, you know, like that kind of thing. Or
the only
past her ran out to the oak and then he was above her waking her up. I wasn't super sure what was going on.
Oh, interesting.
But it doesn't really matter.
The
it was
only
just...
reason I think that is the way it is because in that scene somewhere, she's like, he wasn't drunk anymore. Like he was sober now. And, you know, making all these declarations. So basically, Vikram lays his heart on his sleeve.
Oh, God. She's like, Vikram, stay away from me. And he's very much like, he kind of puts it out there. He's like, how do you deal with this shit? All these fans and the fame and everything. Right. And she's like, I like it. I made a great decision. I had an opportunity. I took it. I do not feel bad about it. I would do it again, which is like, whoa, Ria. Like, that's a big hurt. Like, you white fanged him once. Like, be cool a little bit now.
Yeah, but he sees right through her and he's like, no, you lied 10 years ago. And I know you're still lying. And I don't know what you're lying about. And I don't know why you're doing this, but I'm not. So last episode, she was so mad at Nikhil because she's like, even though all the words coming out of my mouth and all of the evidence would suggest that these terrible things are true, he shouldn't believe that of me. And Vikram stepping up to the plate and being like, I refuse to believe that of you. You are lying to hide something or something.
But at the same time, he realizes that when she's saying, I would do this again, like this is the decision I made and I would make it 100 more times. He realizes she's not lying when she says that.
Yes.
And in her mind, she thinks back to the promise that she made her dying father. Right. And we find out that the mother killed the father by throwing an oil lamp at him and burned down the whole house and also killed a nurse or a maid.
Yeah.
And oh God. And then the mother of that nurse or maid, she just like never told what actually happened.
No, the daughter.
And then she went to visit. Oh, the daughter of that nurse or maid.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what I mean. And like, so she never knew what actually happened. And then Ria went to visit her dying father in the hospital and he's like all burned and, you know, horrifying situation.
Yeah.
And he's like, take care of your mother.
Right.
Which I just, how about you take care of her?
Yeah.
How about you that is such a shitty promise to put on your daughter. Like, I get that he was dying, but that was such a shitty move. How about you should have taken care of her for the past 20 years or whatever? Don't put this on her.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I was
she's
so
18
mad.
at this point. This is
so
right
mad.
after she promises Vikram that they're going to be together forever once he gets back from Brazil. And then she has to immediately go to Mumbai because her mom has burned the house down and everyone in it. Oh, also, the dad, after his whole body was apparently on fire.
Yes.
And he covered the mom in a blanket and carried her outside while his whole body was still burning. And the nurse dies. Yeah. So this happens like right after that. And she's like, oh my God, how am I supposed to take care of my mom? Because I don't think that locking her in another attic is gonna fucking do it.
And this just shouldn't have been on her. Like, all of a sudden, now we need to get mental health treatment for. I was so mad at the father.
Well,
like,
I don't
she
think
did not
that
kill
was
him. He killed himself. Like,
yeah. I will say, I think that was Uma Atya and Vijay Kaka because they came over for the dad's funeral. That's Uma's brother, is the dad. And so I think that they stepped in with her and was like, we need to do a legit asylum. Like, we need to get her taken care of. And so they helped her coordinate all of that. Yeah.
I understand that. But like, why all of a sudden now is he saying we need to take care of her?
What I'm saying is, I don't think the dad was saying, get her mental health treatment. I think he was saying, just take care of your mom in the way that he would. That was my impression.
Oh my gosh. She's not an animal. Like, it upset me to my core. And this might be my own baggage coming to this, but like,
absolutely.
This horrifying.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so that like she's thinking about like that. Like that's why I'm not lying now when I say I would have made the same decision, because the reason why she slept with Vade to get the parts to make the Bollywood movies was that so that she would have the money to pay for her mom to go into the asylum. And she could have probably just asked Vikram to help her with that since he's super rich, but she didn't want Vikram to know that she was a child of insanity.
Well, more than that, the second layer to that,
is the mom. Because the mom had told her, all you're going to do is siphon and leech off of my son for the rest of your life. And your insanity curse is going to be a curse on our family, which would be a self-fulfilling prophecy then. So it's a rough and it's a bad. And that's why she did it.
She doesn't want to stay romantically connected to him because at the end of the day, she doesn't want to saddle him with the same mental health crises as her dad experienced with her mom.
Right.
And it's just so sad.
Yeah, because she really believes that this is going to happen to her too.
Yeah, she's waiting for it. She's like, I go running every day because that's one of the best ways to like stave off like the endorphins or whatever is the best way to stay mentally balanced.
But like one of the ways to most like be mentally unsafe is to like isolate yourself and like keep all this stuff in and like
that's true.
Ria, like running can't help you when you're doing all this horrible stuff to yourself. But he basically says like, listen, I'm calling bullshit on this and I'm not going to like listen to your lies and just back down. Not this time. Yeah. And she's like, there isn't a this time. We don't have a this time. Like you have Mira. And then he's like, oh no, I don't have Mira anymore. And she's like, Vikram, what did you do? And he's like, Mira broke up with me, which I think is supposed to surprise the reader, but it relieved this reader because I'm like, Mira, be free.
That's right.
Live your life away from this like chaos tornado of depression. Like, break the chains, go away. I hope she ends up so happy with somebody not Vikram.
Yeah, because we find out later that he was like basically trying to make her into Ria, and that's not what Mira deserves.
Awful bad. Oof. So the tension is like really high in this scene, and he's just like, "You're the perfect." She's like, "She was perfect for you," and he's like, "No, you're perfect for me." And like, it's about to, it's on, and then like Uma comes into the kitchen, and it's like, who wants dumplings or whatever?
Right.
Breaks it up. So then we have another like snack time. Like I feel like all the breakups in this movie are like snacks of some kind, which is great.
My favorite way to break up the day. Yeah.
And Vikram and Nikhil have like a competition of who can eat more tasty treats. I really liked that.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Moving on. So then like they're setting up stuff for the wedding in like the yard. They're carrying out boxes. They're putting up the tent. They're doing that kind of stuff. And she sees him on the roof.
Yeah.
And he's hanging out on the roof, like just kind of like...
Have they not hooked up already?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because he just sort of keeps... So as they're setting up, he just sort of keeps appearing at her side.
Yes.
Because I think at the end of that conversation out at the Oak or whatever, he was like, FYI, I'm DTF. I'm ready to do this.
Yeah.
It's on in my brain, but I am not going to chase you again.
Yeah. So he's just up on this roof, like looking handsome and vulnerable. It says he watched her, waited for her to find him, to meet his eyes. Something so possessive, so tender, so incredibly magnetic flickered across his face that she couldn't look away. He rubbed his chest, completely unconscious of the action, so heartbreakingly vulnerable that in this moment Ria would have done anything to protect that look on his face, to keep him safe. Absolutely anything. So she has this idea of like she needs to stay away from him because she's got to keep him safe. Like if she hooks up with him, that's the end. Like he's going to like fall off this cliff and into her like horrible life, and he's going to be lost again. Then she gets a call from Big DJ, and IndiaStars.com has the picture of like her taking her scarf and like being in Vikram's arms and like wiping up the blood. And nothing really comes of that.
His face isn't shown. But it alerts everybody that she is in Naperville, definitely.
Right. And that she might have like a new man or something. Like there's this buzz around her now.
Right. Oh, because apparently Vade has been trying to keep his name in the press. And so Big DJ has been like, you need to lay low because Vade hasn't told anybody about your liaison yet. But like,
right.
if he thinks that he can capitalize on a surge in attention to you, he will.
Right.
So you definitely need to
will.
like get bodyguards and stay off the radar. And she's like, I'm going to stay off the radar, but no bodyguards.
No bodyguards. I don't want those bodyguards.
Yeah.
Don't. It's the henna ceremony now. And they do all the henna, and then they see whose henna turns different colors, and it means something for the kind of love that you have in your life.
Yeah.
And Ria's henna turns like dark, like the dark, all the very darkest henna.
Yes.
And it means that you have an intense love and a steadfast love.
Yeah. And she does, you guys. Vikram loves her across the ages and across the oceans and across a lot of pain for himself.
So, like, they're still doing setup. She's, like, looking for something or, like, needs something. And she goes into, like, what she thinks is a random guest room. Mm-hmm. And she smells this smell that's, like, so familiar and is, like, Vikram. And, like, I know how this feels. It's like you go into a room and it's, like, the person's room. And it's, like, all of these feelings come back. And she realizes,
she's down in the basement.
Oh, no. Yeah, this is his room. And she just thinks he's back for the wedding. She didn't know that he was like living here in Naperville with his parents.
With his aunt and uncle.
I'm sorry. I keep saying that and I don't know why. It's like very clear who his mother is.
She's more of a mother figure than his mother is.
Yeah. Oh, God. So he comes into the room and is like, why are you in here? Why are you in my room? And she's like, I was looking for lanterns or whatever. And he's like, in my room. And she's like, I didn't know it was your room. I just thought it was a guest room. Ooh. And he's very like, you know, there's this thing between us. And she's like, no, there's not. I don't know what you're talking about. It says he leaned closer, locked her into place with his blazing gaze. I'm talking about the big searing holes we're burning into each other, this insane, crazy thing between us. I'm talking about how badly we want each other. It's time to finish this, Ria. And she says, how romantic. Do you get far with these lines? Like, she is not
you
about
will get
it. And
so far with me,
Vikram.
So
far with me, Vikram. Like, now that I know you're the victim here. Oh, God. And so, like, he's just like, why are we pretending? Like, we need to do
Ria?
this. And he gets like really up in her like space and they're like sharing breath.
Yeah.
She's like, well, I'm only going to be here 4 days. After that, I have to leave. And like, we shouldn't, like, this is a bad idea. And
he's like, let's make the most of those 4 days.
Yeah. I don't care what happens after 4 days, after the future, about the past. I don't care. I just want you more badly than I've ever wanted anything. And his eyes backed up his words, every single one of them.
Oh boy.
Oh, and this is when he talks about how he's tried to make every other woman into Ria. He was trying to make Mia into Ria. I just wish I could like read all of this out loud.
But it makes sense because that's why he looked at Mira and said it'll be just us down here, because he was role
he's
playing.
Trying to recreate it.
Yeah. Oof.
Yes.
Yeah, and so she's like, she panics and leaves, basically, right?
No.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
This is a big hot kiss. He says, I can feel your body screaming, Ria. I feel what you're feeling. His eyes found hers again. His fingers found her hair, the gentlest tug, and her face was turned up to his, a breath away from a kiss. Still nothing. He blew the word into her lips. Ria arched up on her toes and pressed into his mouth, finding that maddening gap with her lips. He has this like lip gap, like a Brad Pitt situation. Oh. And then it's just like a whisper of a kiss, but like it heats up and is a kiss.
Yeah, and then they just devour each other.
Yeah, she wrapped her arms around him, blah, blah, blah.
Oh.
Tongues,
she's
all the
up
things.
on her toes.
It's so good. It's hotter than I'm making it, guys. It's very good.
It is so good.
And then she says, nothing. There's nothing here. Absolutely nothing. And then she runs off. He calls her a liar as she's like running off. It's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah. So then that night she's in her room and she starts rationalizing to herself.
Right.
And she's like, I mean, I guess that it wouldn't be so bad.
It wouldn't be the worst. We
just have to get it out of our systems. Yeah.
She's just laying in her bed, just like knowing he's down there.
Just get it out of our systems. Yeah, and then we won't do it ever again. Right. It'll be fine. We just got to pound it out, and then we just got to go about our lives. So she
Ria, you're so wrong, but you're so right. So she goes down.
Good job,
and
Ria.
She finds him. Good job,
Anything
Ria.
you need to tell yourself to get down to that basement.
Yes,
I am into it.
Yes.
And so she opens the door and he looks up from his drafting table, and it's exactly the way she pictured he would look sitting there. And then he gets up, and it says that he very decisively strides over to her. Oh.
Yeah, it's very like, that James McAvoy Kiss and Atonement where he like walks across the library. Yes, it's very that.
Ooh.
And then it's very on. It's very on TM.
It is so on TM. Yeah. They press themselves up against each other, and they're just like ravenously kissing each other.
It's just like animalistic, you guys. It's so
He's got
good.
handfuls
so
of ass. She's got her hair her hands twined in his hair. She's like kissing on his jaw, and then he moans and captures her mouth again as if he just couldn't even like think about never kissing her again. And then he takes off her pants while they're still kissing, and then takes off his pants, and then he hikes her up on him, and then he walks her over to the bed, and she goes bounce, bounce on the bed, and and then it says that he puts his hips right like in her open legs where he belongs, you guys.
Where he belongs, the perfect fit. Perfect
fit. And so
it's good stuff.
Oh, and then he has to like break to grab a condom. And then he just like shoves it right in. There's no preamble. There's no like opening her up. She says that she just feels like the piercing, like overwhelming pleasure.
It's such a need.
Yes. And she's filled with him. And then it's really good. And then when she comes, she says, like Vicky, she calls him Vicky for the first time.
For the first time in 10 years, she calls him Vicky.
His real name on her lips, like, oh God. Yes. It is a longing that comes to life. I'll tell you that much.
And it's a lot about like all these years of yearning and longing and distance. Yes.
Yeah. And so then they both come, and it says that, oh man, it's like they were one flesh, like one feasting whatever being. What is it? Because oh no. Okay, I'm gonna do it the way I did it last time. Hold on. All you have to do is search the word thrust, and then you can find it.
I'm here. I just don't know.
Okay, it says hot drenched satisfaction exploded inside her, just as he exploded too, dousing her insides and gathering every one of her scattering pieces into himself.
Dousing her insides.
Yeah, okay, all right. Just gathering every one of her scattered pieces into himself until they were one being, one life, complete, unfractured. And you guys, it harkens back to the lecture that the priest gave them at the Hindu temple about marriage being about interior oneness. You guys, it's so symbolic. Anyway.
But the thing to me that was the most beautiful was the first half of that paragraph. This just shows how opposite we are. The first half of that paragraph is what got me, where she yells out Vicky, and his thought is like, finally his name, the piece of him that was hers and hers alone, spilled from her lips into his mouth. And that's when he comes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It is. It's beautiful.
So they wake up the next morning in his bed, and they can hear people in the kitchen upstairs. And
it says that she feels reborn because she finally slept well on Vikram's chest. She feels
for the first time.
Reborn. Okay, everybody.
And rested for the first time.
Rested as one.
Yeah. And so she's like, oh, I have to get up and go upstairs and blah, blah, blah. And he's very like, let's do sex again. Like we're making up for lost time. And she's like, no, the aunties are upstairs cooking and they're going to realize something's up. And like, I've got to get my shit together. What do you think about like, she makes him close his eyes so she can like get out of bed and get dressed? Is that not the weirdest?
Yeah, I don't know. People are weird. It's fine. I think
I thought it was so weird.
To me, that came across as her being like, I can't be vulnerable in front of you. Like, this can be sex, but it can't be like, like we can't continue the intimacy Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Yeah,
she just wants to keep on putting walls up in front of him. So, like, don't look at me naked.
I can kind of see that.
Yeah.
It just struck me as kind of silly.
Yeah, he was just inside you, girl.
Yeah. But so then that day, they're, like, putting up the tent and, like, doing a bunch of the wedding stuff. And, like, they're doing a bunch of stuff on the lawn, carrying things around. Like, Vikram, like, does, like, a pulley to, like, hoist things up. And
it's
somebody's
a very
like,
impressive pulley.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody's like, you should patent that. He's like, the pulley? Like, I'm pretty sure that's been patented. I thought it was really funny. But the thing that's interesting is, like, Ria is, like, singing, is, like, skipping around, and everybody notices the full 180 in Ria. Is like, why is she so cheerful and giggly?
Because she got that D for the first time in 10 years.
It's so clear to everybody that she has gotten that D.
And Vikram is like smoldering at her all the time. He's trying to get her to go off and bang it out like in the shed, you know? Ooh.
It says, if Ria had to identify one day as the happiest day of her life, this would be it. From the spotless sunshine to the buzz of happiness in the air to the presence of every person who meant anything to her, it was flawless. It says, after working all morning with Vikram and Nikhil, then they decorated the tent and they laid out like a lunch, and she's just like so happy. It's just the perfect, most wonderful day.
Yeah.
And she thinks about the difference between like when they had sex when they were 18 and it was all self-conscious and urgent and, you know, hormones. And now it's like intense and consuming and beautiful and love and like,
yeah, it's matured, just as they have separately. Ooh.
So then, that night, after all the decorating and everything, she goes out to the oak tree and is like, Vikram, are you up there? And there's like a leaf rustle, and she knows that he's up there. And then he turns on the tree, and he has like illuminated it with lights, like the extra lights from the wedding with like battery packs and stuff.
Yeah,
and
solar battery packs that he like made.
Yeah, that he like invented or whatever.
I think
I don't know. And it's very bully. It's a traditional Naperville tree lighting.
Except that we know that Tree Stump Tammy was not involved. Okay?
No.
This was all Vikram.
No Tree Stump Tammy. But in the way that there is a traditional Highlander finger banging, there is also a traditional Naperville tree lighting.
That's right.
This is it. He's done it. If you are in love in Naperville, you do have to put Christmas lights all over the tree that signifies the childhood love between you and your betrothed.
That's correct. And then they like have sex out in that right next to the tree. They do it right there.
He like talks to her about this like solar cell battery pack that he made, and like that's a turn on for her.
Well, wait. No, what the turn on is that he's been tinkering with it for years, but the thing that gave him the push to finally finish it is wanting to do this project for her because she is his ultimate muse.
Well, yeah. Because if you live in Naperville and you did a childhood love and then somehow that was betrayed and now you're coming back together, this is the only way.
It's the only gesture.
Show. Yeah, it's the only way to show the woman you love that you love her.
That's correct.
Is to put Christmas lights on a random tree that meant something to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So like he can kind of see her like getting into her head a little bit, and he makes her promise that she won't think about anything else about like any past or future or whatever, just them and how it feels. And she promises, and they have a beautiful night together. And then the next day is the wedding.
Yeah.
And so we get a lot of like how beautiful the wedding is and how beautiful like all the clothes and the decorations and the food and everything. And they sit next to each other. Vikram has never been to a traditional Indian wedding before.
Wait. Up in the hotel room. He's up in the hotel room with the bride before the ceremony even. They're all together. Right?
I don't remember this.
Yeah,
I did not take a note on this. Tell me about it.
They're all up in the hotel room, and Vikram and Ria are sort of like joking with each other or whatever. And Jen is like, "So it's on, huh? You guys are doing it, right? You guys are like totally dicking down, right, guys?" Yeah. And they're like, "What?
How dare
I don't know
you?
what you could be talking about.
Dare you
Jen?
Suggest such a
P.S.
thing?
I believe your wedding is starting, so we better skip too."
Yep,
it's really cute. And then the ceremony starts.
So they like take seats. They sidle up next to each other at the wedding. And Vikram's like, how long is this going to be? Because I do want to go upstairs and sex you. And she's like, 4
sex it up.
hours. And he's like, the fuck? Like, I'm not going to sit here for 4 hours. But it turns out you don't have to like stay there and watch the whole thing. You can like walk around and get snacks and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which again, the whole like
it
this
sounds
is 4
like
hours, but
wedding.
you get snacks component is like the perfect compromise here. Yes. Yeah. So
they wait. So they're behind the throne altar thing. Wait, no. They're behind the throne altar thing. And he's doing a big rub on her exposed midriff. And she's doing a big clownfish. Into his dick. Like she's doing
clownfishing.
Yeah. She's doing a clownfish on his anemone. And then he grabs her by the arm. Yeah, what?
And then she tells him that is it a sari that she's wearing is Uma's?
Yeah.
Oh, and Uma gave it to her. It was one of her, because I guess there are like multiple wedding dresses that you wear. And so like Uma gave her one of her wedding dresses that she wore at one of the ceremonies of her wedding to wear. And so like, I don't know. It's like very
and it's wine
emotional
colored.
For Vikram, you know, because she basically raised him. And like, I think that the blessing of Uma means more to Vikram than the blessing of his own mother. And like, this is kind of a sign. Like,
like
Uma has given her this dress to wear. It's just gorgeous. And he tries not to cry when she tells him this.
Yeah. And it's also really sweet because Uma Atya says that she wanted to wait and give it to Ria for her wedding. But then she says, I have so many dresses, so I'll just give you one of the other ones I wore for your wedding. And it's wonderful. So he grabs her arm and they scurry to the elevator.
They're going to go have a quickie because they have, again, 4 hours. And he takes them to, I am team Ria on this one.
Super.
He takes them to the honeymoon suite.
He wants to go to the honeymoon suite. And she's like,
no.
Yeah, she's like, fuck that, fuck you, dude. We can't. I'm not giving them sloppy seconds honeymoon suite. Yeah, that's fucked up, bro.
That said, would I have done it on the bed?
No.
Absolutely not. No. 100% not. But like another area of the room, I don't know that I would have been super opposed.
Or like against the door.
Like, no, not on like a certain, like, like against the wall.
On the floor.
Or like on the floor.
They do it on the floor anyway. So.
Exactly. So
on
like,
a table.
Here's the thing. And if it were my honeymoon suite, please.
Yeah,
like,
I'd actually be fine with that.
I'd be
if it was
fine
my
with
honeymoon
it.
suite. Yeah.
I know
just
you
not
would
on the
know,
bed.
But also I would. We all know you would. But don't touch the bed. Don't go near the bed. And I think it's probably fine. That's what I say.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, she puts her foot down.
Like a janitor closet.
Yeah, they do.
With towels and stuff.
And so he puts her up on this table and he is determined to make her tell him what she wants because she is demurring away from it. And so he keeps on just torturing her with all of his sexiness. He's got, oh my God, Erin, he has his hands on her ankles. And her heels like right up against her ass. And he's holding her in place as she like tries to lift her hips up into him for a little bit of friction. And he's just making out with her whole face and devouring her that way. And she keeps being like, Vicky, please now. Don't wait anymore.
And he's like,
please what, Ria?
He just loves the sound of his name when she says it. So like he's not going to give her what he wants or what she wants if she continues to say his name like that.
He's in no hurry.
He wants her to tell him what she wants. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
So she like tries to put her heels around his ass and pull him closer, and then he disentangles her again and puts her back up on the table. And then he starts using his hand. He pulls up her skirt, and she's like, Vicky, no, because he like stops kissing her, and his whole body stills, and he says, do you want me to stop? And then she bites his neck and says, don't you dare stop. And then he pushes his neck into her teeth, and he keeps on fluffing up her skirt, and then he uses his fingers over the lace.
Referencing any text. I should say, and also did not for the first sex scene. Anyway, continue. What did he do after he ruffled up or whatever?
So then he uses his fingers on the lace of her panties, and she's like trying to push up into him, and he won't give her any more friction. And she's like, please, Vikram, please. And he's like, what do you want me to do? You got to tell me what you want. And then she says, please, Vicky, please, more, now, more. And so then he gives her more friction. And then just as she's about to come, he slips off her underwear and he puts his mouth on her. And then he eats her out like the champion he is until she comes like 4 times in a row as she's sitting up on this table. And she's like writhing and she's got her hands in his hair and it's a whole thing. And then he picks her up and no. And then she's like spent on the table. And so he starts to undo his pants. And she's like, no. And so she gets off the table and then she gives him a smooch and then she starts to undo his pants. And then he's like, oh, fuck Ria. Oh, because she's going down on those knees, you guys. And then she can only go down on him for a little while because he gets very overwhelmed. And then he pulls her back up. And that's when he lays her down on some towels. He schmirgles the towels off of the shelf.
Bing, boom, bong. Towel sanitation with Erin. People are going to get those towels and they're going to use them in their showers and put them on their faces.
No, I thought that what they did was then put them in whatever laundry
God, I hope
hamper.
So. All right.
Or just leave them on the ground. Let people know they are dirty.
I hope so.
Okay, so then he lays her on the ground. And then everything starts becoming very like gentle and reverent, and he's worshiping her as he like pulls up her skirt again and settles himself in between her legs. And then oh my God, you guys, he goes all the way in. He puts his penis all the way in. And then she's trying to like buck against him. And he hushes her and he's like, just feel this. Feel me all the way
Feel
inside
it, baby.
me. Feel it, baby. He doesn't say that, you
50
guys.
Shades of Grey.
Vikram is not that corny, okay?
You just said.
No, but he's just like, feel this and don't move. Just experience the stillness and me like all the way up inside you. But meanwhile, he's devouring her with his mouth. And so he's like, he's showing her all of his passion in her mouth. And then she comes with like no friction whatsoever because the kiss is so hot with just like the full penetration. And then she starts like, really, really thrusting against him through her orgasm. And then he joins her and they thrust and thrust and thrust and thrust. And then they both come again.
And this segment has been Bing Boom Bong Sex Plot with Melody, which is becoming a much more popular segment since Lukov. And I don't know, because that took about 13 minutes. So then,
anyway,
after the sex is done over, he's like, oh, for an ice princess, you're pretty loud. They probably heard you all the way down in the wedding. And she's like blushing and being like, oh, Vicky. And he's like, well, you do that, it's going to happen again. And she's like, yeah. And then he's an ace at folding towels because, quote, I worked in a sweatshop in Honduras for a while folding clothes. Ew, Vikram. Ew. So he's like, I'm so speedy at folding these towels or whatever.
Well, and then he also helps her put her sari back on.
Yes, that too. They note that they did not use a condom, so she says that she has an IUD, so that's going to be fine, at least for pregnancy protection.
But then she starts getting in her head because she's like, OMG, can't have babies. Vikram want babies.
And also, like, yeah, she starts thinking about the IUD and realizing that he wants babies. And also when he mentions the sweatshop, she's like, that's my fault. That's why he was in the sweatshop. And like, it's going to happen again because we've only got like another day and he's going to just like fall off this cliff for her. And then, then they're like leaving the janitor's closet and her hair is all askew. She had her hair up in a bun and it's like coming out and whatever. And she's like, do I look good? And he's like, oh, you look radiant and you're wonderful. And then when they get back down to the wedding, they run smack into.
But before this, she like the whole mood has changed. And he's been like, hey, Ria, what's going on? What's in your brain parts? And she's like, nothing. I just look so weird right now and I'm just trying to fix it. And he's like, no, we should talk about this. And then they run into his mom. Oh,
yes. And it is a big bad. Like he kind of has like a conversation with her and then
Oh my gosh,
fucks
Erin,
off, right?
Sort of. No, it broke my heart because his mom gives her like a big smile, and she's like, "That's the biggest smile I've ever seen from her," especially pointed at me.
She thinks she's Mira,
and she thinks she's Mira. Like this seemed wholly unbelievable to me,
which is insane. It's insane because like
she's a movie star. She's seen her,
big movie star, and no one looks that different from 18 to 28. There's no way. But when she figures out that she's Ria, her eyes ice over.
Yeah.
And it becomes...
Oh my gosh, because she has the same eyes as Vikram.
Yes. And he gets the same like iced over black
rage
sort of expression. Yeah. And she's like, well, why would Ria be here? And Vikram's like, well, why wouldn't she be here?
Because
this is Nikhil's wedding. This is a big deal. And I don't remember how she gets alone with the mom. But like at some point, I don't know if like twice? They break away. Yeah. And then the mom encounters her a little later or something.
Yeah. But she's basically like, hey, what were you doing upstairs with my son? Tell me right now.
Yes. Yeah. And she's like, well, it's not your business what Vikram and I do. You don't have like control over him. Right. And this is not your problem to deal with. And she's like, it is my problem to deal with. Mm-hmm. And you will not be going near my son. So like nothing has changed in the past 10 years.
Well, and is this where she goes out to the pool? Like she goes back to the ceremony for a minute, but then she ends up back at the pool, like out at the pool to get some fresh air or something like that. And the mom follows her. And so the mom is like, she basically like, what the fuck are you doing? You made a promise to me that you would leave my son alone at X, Y, and Z. And then by the end of this conversation, though, Ria looks at her and she's like, what you don't understand about all of this is that I have the power to absolutely ruin you. I have the power to take your son away from you forever. If I told him that you were the one who talked me out of being with him, he would never speak to you again. And the mom like freaks out because this is apparently the only time that's crossed her mind. What?
Yeah, anyway. I don't know. And then also when she's inquiring, like she stands up to her for the first time. Like when she's saying, what were you guys doing upstairs? And she's kind of saying none of your business.
Yeah.
Eventually she says, why don't you tell me? Because you told me once that you come from like a family of intellectuals 15 generations back. So why don't you figure it out? And the mom is very kind of taken aback by how Ria is mouthing off to her. And she's like, did you expect that I would be the same easy target now as I was when I was 18?
Yeah.
Because that's not the case.
Right. It's very much like an Elizabeth Bennet, no, I will not make that promise to you.
Yes.
I would like to go back to the house now. Yeah. And so the mom is like, but you like, please don't do that. And Ria thinks to herself, she doesn't say this to the mom. To the mom, she's like, well, watch your back. Be nice to me because I can do this to you. And in her brain, she's like, of course I would never do that to Vikram because that would only hurt Vikram. I don't want to hurt him like that. I don't want to take away his
I don't
family.
Want him to I don't want him to have to leave his family.
That's an awful thing to do to him.
He would resent me forever, and that's horrible. So then when she sees Vikram again, he can clearly tell something horrible has happened. But again, she just shoves it down, and he's very like, let's fix this. What's going on?
Yeah,
and
can
she's
we
like,
go
we
talk?
Can't fix it. It's over. There's nothing to fix. Like, this shouldn't have happened. I have to go back to Mumbai.
Yeah.
Like, this is done. It's been fun. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.
And she tells Uma Attia, she goes over to her and like throughout the whole ceremony, the rest of the ceremony, she's like glued to Uma Attia's side. And Attia doesn't say anything. She's just like, she just doesn't ask her any questions. She just realizes that she needs that comfort. And so she just keeps her by her side the whole time. And it's so sweet. Oh, and then when she's leaving, right before she leaves, I think this is before he talks to her again. She looks at her and I think she says, like, she basically calls her mom and then leaves. She looks at Uma and she says the word mom and then is like, I'm leaving now. And then he corners her.
Yeah. So when Vikram finds her again, he's like, okay, if you can even hear me right now, because she's being so closed off that he can't even tell if she's listening to him or has any recognition of his words. If you can still hear me, if any of this is still reaching you, I want you to listen very carefully. I told you this once before. I will not chase you again. I can't. If you can throw this away and if you can live without it, then go. But if you leave me now, if you run from us again, it's over. Finish. Don't bother coming back ever. Do you hear me? Never again. If you walk away from me now, you will never see me again.
Oh.
And then she just goes and he says, Ria, and she just nothing.
Because in her mind, she's like, this is the only way. This is good. He can't, I will ruin him if I stay with him. I will just be this albatross around his neck forever. And my impending schizophrenic breakdown will be his problem then. And it's just terrible.
So she goes back to Mumbai.
And it's a big depress.
This is another kind of like red herring, like we didn't need it sort of thing. She gets mobbed, I guess, getting out of the taxi when she comes back, probably because she's been in the news a little more.
Well, and she doesn't have her bodyguards. She's like in a daze.
Yeah. It says it had taken the combined strength of him, his DJ, his driver, and 2 security guards to pull the mob off of Ria and pick her up off the sidewalk, where she sat on her knees, face pressed on the concrete with her hands over her head, her clothes ripped, her skin gouged off, mauled and bleeding. So she gets just like attacked, and then she's in her house for like several days just recuperating, which I was just like, oh God, do we need more
trauma?
Like, it's just so much trauma. And they look at the news and how she's been in the news, and this like mauling is in the news.
Well, I think one of the reasons that is justifiable is because of the next big thing that happens. Like I don't know that the story would have been worth as much to whoever sold it to the newspapers, you know what I mean? Without all of this attention. I don't know.
So the big thing that happens here is it gets sold to the newspapers, the story with her mom.
Yeah.
So whoever did the blackmailing, the original photo of her on the ledge, with like the very first scene of the book,
right?
That guy also got a hold of the fact that her mother has been in like a mental health institution for the past 20 years or whatever,
right?
And that she hasn't visited her, and so it becomes this whole like starlet on the brink. She's crazy, insane, just like her mother, and also that she's like kind of a bitch for not visiting her too,
right?
Is part of it.
Yeah, she's not doing her duty as a daughter,
right?
And also the mom is in the asylum under the dead nurse's name, the one who died in the fire,
right? Yeah. And so like she has to go see the daughter of the dead nurse for the first time in forever and like apologize to her for not telling her that her mother was murdered by her mother. It's just...
Well, but then meanwhile, it's also a big sunshine because the daughter looks at her and says, I'm not here for your apology. I'm here to thank you. Because I know that you've been putting me through school and you're the reason that I actually have an education and that my mother's dreams for me came true.
Right.
All she wanted was for me to be educated and make something of myself because, she was a manual laborer her whole life and that's what she was working towards. And she says that right before she died, she had actually pulled her daughter out of school so that she could work too. And she's
right.
like,
and Ria has been paying for that for years.
Oh, and so, Ria is a good person if she would just let herself see that she's a good person. And that's essentially what the daughter tells her is like, I don't care what the tabloids say. I don't care about anything else. You're a good person and I am grateful for you.
Yeah.
I forgive your mother. I understand that she wasn't in her right mind and it's okay.
Right.
But Ria can't even really accept that. So she loses the role in this big movie. She didn't want the role anyway.
But she kind of didn't want it in the first place. And she was kind of like feeling better. Actually, she goes and like quits the role. And then she thinks that they're pretty relieved that she did that.
Yeah.
And then she gets a letter from Vade, the guy who like maybe raped her, coerced her, whatever that is. That was like, hey, if I knew about your schizophrenic mother, I never would have done that, which is like real gross.
Well, yeah. He's like, hey, my daughter also is schizophrenic or has mental health issues or whatever. And so Vade is sort of used as a vehicle to talk about the stigma about mental health in Indian culture and how it shouldn't be that way. But like, I did not need it from him.
No, I could not tell if the author was telling us that he isn't necessarily like the most black and white big bad villain, or she was saying sometimes your exes send you toxic messages to try to rope you back into bad. You know, like I don't know. I identify far more with the second one.
Well, I mean, so it's tough, right? Because his message seems like he obviously does not realize that anything was wrong. Like, he literally says, hey, FYI, I'm never going to tell the press about your and my relationship, essentially. And so, I don't know. I am not a Vade apologist, but I do think that there was just a big blind spot, and he was, you know, sort of used to thinking that women would just fall on his penis. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's the thing. I'm confused about the messaging. Like, I don't know if Sonali Dev is saying this guy is a rapist and this is like a toxic thing he did years later to make himself feel better about what he did to Ria, or she's trying to say this is a really gray area thing that happened between Vade and Ria back then because it's more of a quid pro quo, but her eyes weren't really open, but did he really know that?
Yeah, he probably didn't know that.
Maybe he's not like the comic book villain that she has, you know, thought of him as her whole, because she was so young, and you know, there's just like miscommunications, and he didn't realize she was in the place that she was. You know, I don't know if she's trying to do the first one or the second one. Yeah. And I think both are totally fine ways to go, but I don't know what the book is going for. Yeah. Because sometimes it seems like it comes down on both sides. Then and it says that Big DJ, her agent, is like with her the whole time. Like, even though clearly her career is like being torpedoed left and right from
Bollywood
different
has
angles.
Turned its back on her.
Yeah. Her agent is standing by her side. He's the best. Again, I would definitely read a book about Big DJ.
Same.
And then she goes to visit her mother in Bristol in the asylum.
Yeah. She liquidates her whole place.
Yep.
She donates all of her schmancy clothes to benefit mental health organizations in India. So, you know, raises money that way for them. It's like a thing. She says goodbye to her maid. That she doesn't call her maid though. The signifier she uses for her is like not auntie, but
but it is like a family thing. I forget what she calls her.
I think it's Ty. She calls her Ty.
But for a long time, she was her only friend. So
anyway, she goes to Bristol and she has an apartment there, and she spends like 3 weeks leaving at the early morning, like the early hours of dawn, walking to the asylum gates, pushing the button, having them unlock the gate, and then losing her nerve and walking back to her apartment.
Right.
So she does this again.
One of these times she gets like mobbed by reporters, or at least one
paparazzo. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, paparazzo or whatever, who's like, how many times have you been to visit your mom the last 20 years? Like, what are you doing?
And he's like snapping photos.
Yeah, she gets a big anxiety, and then all of a sudden, out of the mist,
somebody in a pea coat.
And she recognizes that shape of that pea coat, and that is Vikram. And does he punch that paparazzo?
There's a big thing
gets rid
that
of
happens.
Him somehow.
He wants to take. Well, I think that Ria, like, they get in a scuffle, and then Ria like tackles the paparazzo, and then she like grabs his camera and goes to smash it, and he's like, "No, my camera! I need to feed my kids!" And burr burr burr. And so they just like delete the photos or something and tell him off. And he goes away with his tail between his legs because privacy and tabloids.
So she and Vikram go and visit her mom. I don't know. I was very troubled by this. I didn't care for the descriptions of the mom and how she was described as a thing instead of a person for some of it. It had this kind of a hair. It had this kind of a...
Well, so I hear you.
It upsets me, and I found it offensive.
Yes. Okay.
I did not like it.
So I saw it as sort of a mini arc, right? Because like with the first time she sees her, she sees the monster who attacked her. She sees her through the 7-year-old child eyes of like this dangerous monster thing that beat her brutally and hospitalized her. And then as they keep visiting and as she starts to come to terms with her own issues and her own baggage and starts to see her mom, like by the end of their visit to Bristol, she's now seeing her as her mom, a troubled, mentally ill, schizophrenic woman who like couldn't help what happened because of the circumstances that she was put in by very sane people. You know, like, so I think that it was an arc. I agree with you. When I read it on the page, I was like, I just
felt like the book wasn't
that.
compassionate enough toward this woman. Like, I felt like the book was very compassionate toward Ria, was very compassionate toward Baba, who, I mean,
oh my God.
He's a monster in so many ways, and just very little compassion for her mother, who is in a lot of ways the biggest victim in this book, and has endured more suffering than anyone else. And then we still have to see her described as an animal at the end,
right? And
like ugly and less than a person, which is just. It was just a little too much for me. But again, that may be my baggage. I'm close to somebody who's schizophrenic, and I just did not like it.
No, I hear you. I completely hear you. Yeah, it might have been heavy-handed, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe that's it. Maybe it's like a stereotype that I'm responding to. Right. That I feel like people with schizophrenia can be treated and have like completely like normal lives and be
happy, healthy,
you would not even know
lives. Yes.
And this is rough.
Yeah, I agree.
So basically, like, her and Vikram,
they like move into the apartment together, and they spend a few weeks doing
some talks. Like, he gets her some paints, you know, like they start repairing all this stuff, and he tells her that when he saw that article, it scared him to death, and you know why he came and got her. But
he also, now everything clicked into place for him.
Yes,
he's like,
now he realizes why happened.
You did it. Yeah.
Yes. And then they decide they're gonna make it work. These crazy kids are gonna do it. They're gonna get together, you guys. HEA.
It's really sweet though, because in this last talk, this was an important conversation to me, because as you and everyone else knows, I hate it when people don't agree on something as huge as kids and then love sort of like wallpapers over it at the end. And somebody just like does a 180. But it was really cool because in their conversation, she's like on the brink of saying, because once Vikram shows up in Bristol, he's all in. He's like, hey, I don't care how long it takes you to come around to
We're
this.
We're going
to
figure this out.
Yeah, you're not getting rid of me. You are the only person for me. I spent my whole life trying to turn other women into you. I only want you, and the only way I'm going to be happy is if I have Ria as my partner. And so she's like on the brink, but then she finally breaks down and she's like, I need you to know that I can never, ever have kids. I can't do it because in her brain, like the hormonal fluctuations sent her mom and her grandmother both into their schizophrenic breakdowns. And she's like, I cannot do that. I can't take the risk. And even though he sort of pushes back on it, because he's like, you're 28, you're past the point when schizophrenia usually shows up in women. I still completely hear you and I understand, but it's okay because I don't need biological children. I just want children.
I just want children.
Yeah. So he tells her all about this orphanage that he worked at where he tutored kids in South America. And he told himself, he looked at them, and as he was leaving, he was like, I want to bring as many of those kids home with me as I possibly can. And so he's like, as long as you're cool with an arrangement like that, like I'm good. I don't need you pregnant at all. And she's like, oh my gosh, yes, I would love to, like, because she loves kids, but she just doesn't want to biologically have them. And so they actually do agree on kids.
Yes.
And it's beautiful. So there we go. Do it. And so at 99.3% into this book,
we get
they decide they're gonna do it.
And then she ate a full good meal and realized what it's like to eat full good foods, and she never starved herself again.
Right. Yep.
That's my happy ending. I added that.
And then she got into some really great compassionate therapy. You know, and maybe they did some couples therapy just for shits and giggles.
I don't remember this from the book. Is this a Melody ad-lib as well? Yeah.
This might be a Melody epilogue.
We just have a couple epilogues. One is that she ate a good tasty meal that she loved and felt good about, and the other one is that she got into some good compassionate therapy, and so did he. Yes. Yeah. And so did those kids. Get those kids into just everybody.
And then those kids were in some good compassionate therapy. And it was great.
Yes.
That's what happened. Yeah, I love
that's
it.
what happens.
That's what happened. It's beautiful. This book is absolutely gorgeous from start to finish. And I've been racking my brain since we started recording, and I feel so dumb for not just like texting Jen Reads Romance. But this book is one of those they talk about on Fated Mates, like romance that like takes big swings, maybe is the term they use. Or
I think that's right.
I think it might be that, but like it's romance that like is doing work about some societal ill or like some issue. And this is definitely one of those books. Mm-hmm. I'll text them and maybe put it in the show notes. Who knows? Okay. All right, Erin. Hey, I heard that you have a tasty lady love.
What a tasty tea I have. It is from Celestial Seasonings. I love a cardamom. I will eat a cardamom on anything. I will shake a cardamom on a peanut butter sandwich. Yum, 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 yum. Get me that cardamom. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's new or not, but there is a cinnamon cardamom tea. It's packaged differently than the standard tea they have. So it might be like a newer special. But boy, is that like Celestial Seasonings cinnamon cardamom tea.
That sounds amazing.
Just delicious. It's so good. It makes me so happy.
That sounds
It does nothing for you in terms of like, it's kind of like the Tazo Delights one. It's just a tasty. It's not a heal, but it's a tasty.
It does things for your soul, Erin.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And also cinnamon's like antioxidant. I don't remember what cinnamon does.
I don't know if it's like really cinnamon or if it's like
fake
flavors. Cinnamon. Yeah, I don't know. Fair. I don't know. It definitely doesn't have any benefits on the box, which makes me think that it's not trying too hard.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Well, mine is a companion to yours. And that is, we got this hot water maker station thing. It's not a kettle. It's this Japanese brand. I don't remember what it is, but you just fill it with water and then you press a button on it and it gives you hot water out of a spout. And it's one of my favorite things now because I realize that in the winter...
What? Is it on demand?
Yeah. So if you add a bunch of water, you have to wait for it to reboil every time. So you do have to like fill it throughout the day if you drink a lot, but the basin is huge. The basin is like 64 ounces. I don't know. And you can set it to the temperature you want. So we usually have it set at around 195.
And it just stays at that temperature.
Yeah, it just stays there.
It's like a tiny hot tub.
Yes, it's brilliant.
Love it.
So then you push a button and you put it into your mug. Or I actually have been, I took a page out of Ria's book. I've been doing a hot lemon water every morning.
Yeah.
With
do you do your...
I haven't kundalini'd afterwards, but I might start.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been doing lemon water with a little bit of honey and a little bit of ground ginger and some turmeric. I don't remember if the first R is silent. Anyway, so I've been doing that. And then I'm filling like my giant water bottle up halfway with cold water and then halfway with really, really hot water, because I noticed that in the winter, I drink less water if it's cold. I need it to also be a tiny bit warm. Otherwise, I'm just freezing my insides off. And nobody wants that.
No one wants that.
Yeah, because then it like the cold travels out to all my appendages and nobody wants that.
No.
So Michael keeps making fun of me because he saw me do it one day and he was like, "Oh, that's cool." And I was like, "Yeah, because then I have water that's like warm and filtered and yummy." So now every time he does it, he's like, "So you got that warm filtered, yummy water?" Anyway, and it has totally changed my life. So yeah, this on-demand hot water situation get it in your house. Between that and like leaving the teas out in the undershelf so that I see them all the time, I'm a different melody.
Hey, I have a question for the HBs. We have a lot of British HBs out there.
Yeah.
Hey,
British
HBs.
Englanders.
Hey, guys.
Hey, redcoats.
When you make a tea, and I know that don't pretend that this does not happen to you. You make a tea by doing a kettle. You guys do kettles. No microwaves for tea.
How dare you even think about microwaves?
Well, get ready. Fresh kettle water. Then you do put that tea bag in, and then it makes that tea. And then you forget about that tea while you're waiting for it to cool. And then now it's cold tea.
Now it's cold.
What do you do with that tea?
What happens now, redcoats?
Because don't you have to microwave that tea?
I do.
Now? I do
That's what I have to do.
But don't they too? Because you can't pour that tea into a kettle. That's going to make your kettle tea flavored.
I think that culturally you just can't ever forget your tea.
Do they just dump that tea?
I don't know.
Well, I microwave it, okay? That's what I do.
Yeah, I do
anyway,
too.
While I was microwaving this tea earlier, I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
You can find us on Facebook at Heaving Bosoms Podcast and the Facebook group, the Heaving Bosoms Geriatric Friendship Cult. On Instagram at Heaving Bosoms. On Twitter at Heaving_Bosoms. The website is heavingbosoms.com, where you can find the Heaving Bosoms Reading Embrace. You can find the merch, which now features our 3 limited edition merch designs for the 2020 meetup at KissCon in Chicago in April. And all the proceeds from that are going to a charity that is helping Puerto Rico recover from many earthquakes and hurricane.
Yeah.
And what else? Anywhere else they can find it? The Patreon is regular slash one. The slash that's the slash. The slash, the regular slash.
Yeah, that one.
Heaving Bosoms Podcast at Patreon, and there you can find all our Patreons.
Yeah, bonus episodes. There's over 75 bonus posts.
Things. Yeah.
Yeah, most of them are audio, more content.
Some are pictures.
Yeah, some are
wedding pictures, little
some
videos.
Some are text messages.
Yep.
Some are...
Yep.
It's a bunch of stuff.
And that's it.
That's it, you guys. That's all we're doing right now. But yeah, I am so excited about these amazing KissCon merches.
Me too.
I'm so excited about them. So, keeping a badass...
I'm going to say, and love yourself as much as you love a melody sex plot, because it has become very detailed in the last 3 episodes in a way that's like, or love yourself as much as you love a traditional Naperville tree lighting.
That's the
gesture,
one, yeah.
Which is also a big thing. All right. Love you.
All right. I love you so much. Bye.
Great. Bye.
Hey, you. Yes, listener, you. Are you loving the show? If so, please leave a rating and review in your podcast app. The 90 seconds you take to say something nice not only helps new people find the show, but it makes me super smile over at HBHQ. Also, I've had a few people ask, and the answer is yes. We are still doing the 5-star bribe. If you leave us a review with 5 stars, then we'll do whatever book you want. We're real deep into the list, though, so it might be a while. Lilas! Okay, back to the show.